we hope in the future that everyone will have an AI that is able to be really custom and personal to them. Here in Japan, we've seen tremendous growth also, 4x year over year, just in ChatGPT weekly active users. We have seen growth from 3 to 5 million business seats on ChatGPT. I think Japan now is a top 3 business market for us outside the United States. I think it might be number 2 outside the United States.
What do you think its agent going to look like?
And then you get into some really kind of sci-fi stuff, maybe where eventually you have agents that are just interacting with other agents, and there's actually not even a person involved.
Have you seen the product already? Hardware?
Yes.
Next year? クロスディグ101始まります。今日はスタジオを飛び出して特別編です。OpenAI の COO 最高執行責任者のブラッド・ライトキャップさんにインタビューします。サム・アルトマン CEO と二人三脚で OpenAI の経営にあたりブラッドさんにChatGPT の今後や現状、急成長中の法人ビジネス、さらにソフトバンクとの提携や AI インフラの開発、プロダクトの将来像まで幅広に伺います。So, how many times have you been here as an OpenAI executive? Second time or third time?
No, it's probably my 4th or 5th.
4th or 5th, yeah. Okay. You come here a lot.
Yeah, we opened our office here a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was our second office outside San Francisco, maybe. Second or third. And so we've been, trying to grow the team and get to know the market, and
right.
I love coming here also. So any excuse I have, I'll take it.
Okay. What brought you here to Japan this time?
This time is for our executive summit. So we are here with a bunch of enterprises, and one of the amazing things is AI progress is happening so quickly, and I think it's really helpful for us to be able to communicate with customers about the types of advancements we're seeing, ways that other enterprises are starting to use and adopt AI systems.
Yeah.
And we almost have to show you. It's kind of not something that we can just tell you about. We have to kind of be here, and I think it's helpful to give people a flavor for the types of things we're seeing.
Right. So Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, and you are the COO, Chief Operating Officer of OpenAI. So what do you do as COO? What are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so I really focus on a lot of our deployment work. So OpenAI is a research and deployment company. And one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about is how do we actually deploy AI systems into the world that are safe, that are reliable, but also really capable. And on the research side, we think a lot about evals. We think about ways that we test the AI systems for their capabilities. On the deployment side, the way we think about that is, can the models actually solve problems in the real world? And if you put them in businesses, you put them in enterprise environments, these are incredibly complex environments. There's a lot of tools, there's a lot of context. And so it's really actually quite fun for us to be able to deploy these systems into businesses and work with partners to do that, to see how good they are. And they've gotten really, really good, and we think they're going to get really much better.
So speaking of the models, it's just been over a month since the launch of GPT-5. So what do you think of how far model has come? What do you think of progress of models?
Yeah, it's been great. I think, I joined OpenAI a long time ago, 7 years ago, which in AI years is many, very long ago. And back then we had no concept of models that could think, could reason in natural language, could solve hard problems and use tools. And so this much progress, really even in under a decade, to me feels remarkable. We're now in this new era, right, of reasoning models and reasoning systems. And I think that's the impact of that is still underappreciated. These are systems that now can not only answer questions, but actually can take action and complete tasks. And one of the things that we see is that these systems' capabilities can scale with no real, with more compute, they get better and better. And so the challenge that we have, of course, is how do you deploy them and apply them in really complex business environments where you've got to be able to get things right, you've got to be able to use tools, you've got to be able to interact with other people. And so we're just starting to scratch the surface of that work.
So people say they prefer GPT-4o because they're more friendly or affectionate, or GPT-5 tends to make the answers too short, or they say the evolution from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 a lot bigger. So how do you respond to those feedbacks from the users during this period?
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting about AI models is people have a lot of preference for the style and the personality and the way that the models respond. And so really one of the things that we learn every time we update the models is very small micro changes in the personality of the model can actually really impact people's experience with the products. And we're updating our models constantly. So GPT-4 as a model has, from if you used it 2 months ago, it was a completely different model than what you would have used 2 years ago. And GPT-5 is just an evolution on that path. And so for us, we're constantly iterating on the personality. We hope in the future that everyone will have an AI that is able to be really custom and personal to them. Today, it's a single personality that we have at the model level that serves all users. But I think that's the future: is people will really have this very personal and very kind of intimate feeling AI that talks to them the way they want to be spoken to.
So you mainly look at the business environment of using AI. So from your perspective, how does personality matter to users?
Yeah, so the same way really we think about personality with people. There are times where you want someone to be able to be direct, maybe a little more serious. Other times you maybe want a personality that's a little more relaxed, a little more playful. Some people like when the model has almost kind of a funny or humorous personality. Other people like when it's very, very to the point. And so that's kind of part of what we've been able to focus on is, there are ways that you can kind of customize the personality, but specifically in a business setting, we really actually spend a lot of time thinking about how do we want the model to show up, both through our products, but also through products that are made by partners of ours. So if you're building technology that would be for a legal setting, you may want a certain style or a certain tone because the nature of legal documentation and workflows is quite serious, and you want that tone to be reflective of that. Same thing in medicine. How an AI system performs in a medical environment, in a clinical environment, really actually is very important, and there's almost an entire vocabulary that model has to learn. So we work with companies that actually help pull the model in those directions. So companies like Legalon, companies like Ambience, companies like Abridge, these are all companies that actually force us to get better as we think about model personality and how to apply it.
Okay. And weekly actives of ChatGPT reached 700 million, and enterprise users also jumped from 3 million to 5 million in just 2 months. So how do you see growth momentum for both consumer and enterprise users?
Yeah, it's been torrid, and it's been, for us at least, it's been fun to watch. I think ChatGPT obviously is something that everyone can use. We have 700 plus million weekly active users around the world using it. The majority outside the United States. Japan here is, I think, a top 10 market for us, and I think that's actually driving a lot of the adoption at work. And that flywheel is really powerful because people become familiar with how the system works in their personal life, and then they're able to apply it at work and use it productively at work. And so we have seen growth from 3 to 5 million business seats on ChatGPT. And here in Japan, we've seen tremendous growth also, 4x year over year, just in ChatGPT weekly active users. I think Japan now is it's a top 3 business market for us outside the United States. I think it might be number 2 outside the United States. And so just the demand and I think the enthusiasm that people have for the product is driving that growth. And I don't expect that to slow down anytime.
So second biggest market
for business,
business is Japan.
Outside the US, yeah.
So why do you think the adoption in Japan is that fast?
I think it's 2 things. I think one is we invested here really early. We were very intentional about wanting Japan to be kind of a second home for OpenAI. We saw a lot of interest early on in AI systems, and both from a business perspective and also from a individual user and consumer perspective. And so we really wanted to be where the customers were here. And I think Japan has been, on the whole, an economy and a market that's been on the vanguard of technology for decades. And so it's not surprising that they really want to, I think, be early to this cycle of technology as well. And certainly that bears out in the companies that we work with. We work with now a handful of the top enterprises here in Japan, from MUFG to NTT Data. We work very closely with SoftBank, Rakuten, many others, and across industries. And I think people see the opportunity for more productivity, for more growth, for more efficiency in the business, for automation of a lot of the low-level process and repetitive work that today consumes a lot of people's time. And so that's what's made it a top market for us, and we'll continue to invest here.
So what about the developers? That also, a lot of developers that make apps or products on top of the GPT API. So how do you see that in Japan?
Really robust demand. I think the startup ecosystem is absolutely critical to AI adoption, because in many ways I think the way we see AI getting adopted is through new products that are getting built. AI is weird because I think it requires you to rethink process. It requires you really to look at how something is done today, and then really actually think from first principles about how you would rebuild that process using an AI system. So it's this discontinuity in how software gets used and developed. And I think startups have an advantage there because they're thinking from scratch, right? They're thinking from zero. And so every product, it's an opportunity to reinvent how something's done. A good example, we work with a company called Legal started here in the legal tech space. And legal as an entire domain we think is about to change. And they're on the vanguard pushing that type of change through the products they build.
Right. So when it comes to enterprise, what do you think of the impact of AI agents? So you guys just launched the ChatGPT agent, but I don't personally think that that's the final sort of interface of agent, that explores the interface for humans. So what do you think its agent going to look like, or what would one company look like if it can fully leverage the agent?
We're really at the beginning of this entire paradigm, and I think we don't know yet. We have today's agents that, like deep research in ChatGPT, for example, that can go off and do fairly complex work. And they can take their time, they can think, they can use tools. We see the same thing, for example, in coding with Codex as a good example of an agent that can go off and handle really complex work completely on its own. And so I think the way that enterprises shift over time is people will have to manage large fleets of agents and populations of agents that are off doing a lot of different tasks. And so judgment and accountability, I think, still lives with people, but a lot of people will actually start to become almost more managerial. And it will really be about how much, you're only bottlenecked by your ideas, right? It's how many things do I want to get done? Because you can always kind of send an agent off to go do them. And then you get into some really kind of sci-fi stuff, maybe where eventually you have agents that are just interacting with other agents and there's actually not even a person involved. We still have a ways to go till we get to that level of capability. And obviously we care a lot about reliability, safety, security. There's a lot of questions that you still have to figure out before we get there. But certainly that feels like the future.
Is that a sort of reality inside OpenAI, like agent talking to agent sort of thing happening?
Not quite yet. Certainly we are a heavy adopter of our own tools. We use it anywhere from software engineering to sales and marketing. Our finance team is very actively building systems that make their workflow much more efficient. So we have a bunch of kind of disparate implementations of both, obviously in ChatGPT, but other custom systems also. But nothing yet that's kind of the fully agent to agent, completely asynchronous experience. But you could build some really interesting stuff. I think we could probably imagine how to do it.
Are you sure that's the future?
Well, we don't know. I think we're going to try a lot of stuff, and we'll see what works. In the enterprise, obviously, there's a really high bar for reliability and for safety, auditability, access and permissions all have to be correct. And so these are things we take seriously, and we want to make sure before we launch those types of systems into the market that we've been really rigorous in building them.
Okay. So in terms of enterprise agents, I think the partnership with SoftBank Group is critically important because Masayoshi-san announced they are deploying the billion of agents inside the company, inside like SoftBank Group companies. And they also launched a joint venture between SoftBank and OpenAI and deploy outside the group companies, I guess. So how is the progress on these fronts right now?
It's been great. I think Masa has a really, really big vision for, what he wants to be able to do with SoftBank. And for us, it's a big learning experience. I think one of the things that's been great in working with SoftBank as a partner is we've been able to actually work with the enterprise, with the team in the enterprise side, inside SoftBank, to start to develop and experiment with these systems. And a billion agents is a great goal. In theory, your company probably transacts at least 1 billion times a year. If you think about all the low-level tasks and all the little executional pieces of, that people are undertaking today. And I think the way we look at it, and very much I think like echo Masa's vision here, is that at some point AI will be able to take on a lot of that work. And so I think it's an awesome goal. It helps push us. We're still building a lot of the systems I think that can accomplish that goal, but we're lucky to do it with SoftBank, and it's been fun to work with them.
Is that sort of different from other partnerships you guys make, like all over the world?
There's elements of it that are probably a little different, but I think the spirit of it actually is really similar to a lot of the partnerships that we undertake. And I think one of the things that we really get a lot of energy from are companies that we work with that are excited about the future. I think SoftBank happens to be a particularly forward-thinking company, but we actually have been surprised about the number of forward-thinking companies in the world that are really wanting to push the frontier of what AI can do, both in their business, but also broadly in industry. We work with companies in life sciences and material science and industrials, retail, financial services. Financial service actually is a good example of that. The number of companies who you would think are really legacy, kind of incumbent, large, lumbering businesses who've actually really been able to push the frontier on the types of things that they want to build and implement for customers. So that's been a surprising part of this, I think. And I think, the spirit of kind of what we have with SoftBank has actually been much more broad than I would have expected. And I think over time, obviously every enterprise will really have to kind of lean in and adopt these types of systems. But it's been a really, really awesome experience so far, just in being able to work with the number of partners that we do.
So SoftBank is also a big, big investor for OpenAI, and the fundraising is ongoing, has been ongoing right now. So what do you think the SoftBank or Masa bet on OpenAI? Why does he do that?
Well, I think there's just an enthusiasm about the future. And I think that was really the premise of what OpenAI was founded on, was this idea that AI systems are going to transform the way that we work. They're going to ultimately transform the way we engage with computers. And they will be kind of the defining technology of probably this century. And I think that opens up just limitless possibility in terms of what it means for human progress, for economic growth. And we still have to do the hard work, though. And I think that's kind of where the mindset we take to work every day is. The rate of progress is incredible, research progress, but applying these systems in the real world is still hard. And we have a lot of empathy, I think, for the level of change management that we have to work through, and the way that enterprises are working through that. Obviously, building products with these systems is new and can be scary. We have a lot of empathy for the way that jobs are going to change in the future. And so I think there's that part of it that we want to make sure that part goes really well. But the overarching thing is I think just this incredible excitement about what it means for people and society and prosperity.
So in terms of fundraising, a lot of AI companies like model developers are doing fundraising. So how do you see the competition right now?
Yeah, I think it's a competitive market. We like it. I think it pushes us to be better. Competition in a market, in my opinion, is always good because it means that there's a market, and it means that there's demand. It means people have real desire to adopt and use these systems, whether on the consumer side or on the business side. And so The thing we focus on though is how do we make OpenAI systems great, capable, reliable, safe. That's what we can control, and it's our bet that if we deliver on that, then the future will be great for us. So,
one report says that market share of Anthropic in enterprise is more than OpenAI right now. How do you respond to that data?
I think there's a lot of studies that say a lot of things, but I think the way that we show up to work every day is we try and figure out what we can do for our partners and customers. We try and really think about what types of products we can build that are going to be able to advance the state of the art of deployments, whether it's in a business or with one of our developer or startup partners. And we just got to listen to feedback. I think we're really, really early in this. I think we're still probably in the first inning of what is a very long cycle of transition. And so we don't measure outcomes on snapshots of market share or anything like that. Our goal is to try and drive transformation over many, many decades. And that's going to be a lot of work and it's going to be a process.
Yeah. And you need a lot of compute power to make everything happen. So how do you make sure that you have enough infrastructure for AI compute? Like some Altman once said, the GPUs are melting, or he
They're always melting.
Yeah, he just said we are doubling our compute fleet over the next 5 months in August.
Yep.
So what are you guys working on in the short term and long term?
Yeah, well, we're investing really heavily, and I think as long as I've been at OpenAI, we've been on the wrong side of the demand curve. Every time we think we know how much compute we need, we've been horribly off in our prediction. And you'd think we'd get better at predicting these things, and somehow we don't. So we've always underrated, I think, the level of demand. That's both, consumer demand, right, market demand, but also demand that our research teams have to be able to scale the systems and do the experiments that they want to do. And so that's always the balance: is how do you actually be able to kind of fund both of those sides of our company. But I think heavy investment, activating the supply chain to make sure that all of the kind of pieces that comprise being able to build compute capacity come into play at the right time. I think it's being able to work really closely with partners. And then I think it's really being able to work with businesses to justify the demand signal, right? And I think what we're seeing so far has been really healthy, and I expect that'll continue. But we've got to also do our job and deliver the service.
You're also working on this project Stargate with, of course, SoftBank or Oracle and other partners.
Yep.
So what do you think of the progress so far?
Progress has been really good. I think we obviously are thinking really, really big about compute as a long-term kind of strategic vector for OpenAI. Stargate really is, I think, the embodiment of that as a project. We are trying to actually make it as ambitious as we can, and the progress so far has been great. I think we've got again that kind of like everything OpenAI does. That's probably going to be a long-term project. I expect that project will take decades, and so a lot of pieces have to come together. But we're early. I think it was very recently that we launched it, but so far so good.
And it is reported that you guys are working on also chips, AI chips, like development. So do you feel the risk to be too dependent on NVIDIA GPUs right now?
Well, we're always looking at, I think, how do we make our systems more efficient? And OpenAI at its core is kind of, everyone talks about the research side, but people often don't talk about the engineering. And engineering systems at scale is really hard. You look for efficiency where you can get it. You look for wins where you can get them. And that's going to be both at the software level, but it's also going to be at the hardware level, and then at the systems level. And so, like I said, all these pieces kind of have to come together. And when you're investing at the scale we're investing, getting those types of even small wins can translate to really large positive outcomes. So we will continue to be aggressive kind of at every level, and try and be, I think, forward thinking and opportunistic where we can be. And so that's going to kind of hit, I think, a lot of layers of the stack.
You also have initiatives called OpenAI for countries.
Yeah.
Do you think OpenAI for Japan happening in the future?
Maybe.
What do you think?
No, I think OpenAI for countries has been so far really successful. We've seen a ton of interest from kind of every corner of the world, And I think it's an interesting phenomenon because I think governments really do see AI now as a strategic imperative. They want to make sure that they're investing as sovereign entities. I think they want to make sure that their country has the resources, the know-how, the wherewithal to be able to kind of transition into the next century in a competitive way that makes sure that they're part of the growth picture and equation of this next wave. And so I think they're smart to want to invest. I think OpenAI for Countries for us is a way to enable them to invest and to help guide and steer them from the folks that are building the actual technology. And so, again, we're early in it. We're still really kind of discovering, I think, what exactly people want out of that program. But so far, it's been really promising.
I know I have to let you go soon, but for the last part, product, I want to ask you about product. So OpenAI is almost like single product company, which is ChatGPT, but you also have products, but a small number of products. But you guys hired the Fujisimo CEO of applications right now, or the CTO of applications also. So how do you see the future product? What do you think of the product roadmap, or how are you going to turn all those research and technology into the next product?
Yeah, well, so we are more than one product. So today we're ChatGPT, we're Codex, we're our API platform. We have more in the future, I expect. And but I think
still chat sort of like interface.
Well, I think the products really have to match the capabilities, right? And so the first wave of AI was kind of in the GPT-3, GPT-4 era, was just systems that were almost kind of knowledge-based Oracle-like systems. It was just chat systems. So the only thing they could really do was engage with you in a two-way conversation. They couldn't really take action in the world. They couldn't use the web. They couldn't write and execute code. Now you can do all that stuff. And I think that every leap in capabilities that you get opens up this entire new aperture of the types of products that you can build. It takes time to explore that space. And so we're really early in this kind of next phase. And I think it'll take a little bit of time for us to figure out what the right products look like for that next leap. But rest assured, we're thinking about it. And I'm excited for what we have coming.
What about hardware products? You have now IO company.
Yep.
Jony Ive's company.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good example. I think, we think that with every transition and every kind of new platform, there almost always in history has been a kind of a corresponding set of innovations in hardware. And it's not just the software that you engage with, but it's the physical systems that you engage that software with. And so we think this is going to be no different. But right now, I think it's a spirit of experimentalism. I think it's a spirit of exploration and wanting to actually just see what's possible. I think we're so early in this still. And there's still kind of, I think, the spirit of adventure. And I think that's the fun part, is you get to kind of go through this maze to figure out kind of what the right products are. And that's been, I think, a lot of the on the hardware side, at least, been a lot of the spirit of that work. And then on the software side too, I think there's going to be some stuff that gets built that's hard to predict today.
Have you seen the product already? Hardware?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you can tell me right now? Coming soon.
Well, I've seen a lot of our ideas. And I think it's going to be really exciting.
Okay.
Yes.
Next year?
I can't tell you.
Okay. I'm excited to be waiting. Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Thank you very much
for
coming.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.